Hello everyone, welcome back to the Netbeans e-commerce tutorial. Today I will present Unit 8, Managing Sessions. The purpose for this series is to help my students to understand how to use Netbeans IDE to build an e-commerce application. All materials in the presentation come from the Netbeans.org website. The tutorial uses different approach for this unit. First, it provided the complete snapshot at the beginning of the tutorial, then ask students to go over the snapshot to understand what is going on. I had one video presentation to approach this unit as the same as we did in previous units. In that presentation, we first listed tasks that we needed to finish. Then I explained the key concepts behind each task. Then we implement the task in Netbeans IDE. You may find this video under the name the Netbeans e-commerce tutorials Unit 8 Actual. However, in this presentation, I will demonstrate the tutorial unit step by step as it is. The tasks we need to accomplish for this unit are the following. First, we examine shoppingcart.java and shoppingcartitem.java files. Those not included in the tutorial. Then we handle the session data. Then we learn how to examine session data with the Java debugger. Then we examine session tracking options. Then we handle session timeout. In this affordable application, we want the application to be able to remember user-specific data as user click through the website. Unfortunately, the HTTP protocol over which communication on the internet takes place is a stateless protocol. That means each request received by your server is an independent piece of information that has no relation to previous received requests. Challenges: how to update the state of the user's card. Second, how to ensure that the card of another user who happens to be browsing the site at the same time will not be affected. Solution: implement functionality so that a session can be created and maintained for the duration of a user's visit to the site. In this case, we will use HttpSession interface provided by Server Technology. We will define classes, shopping cart and shopping cart item to allow the application to temporarily store user data while the session is being maintained. Therefore, our first task is to examine shoppingcart.java and shoppingcartitem.java. In shopping cart class, we will see that all methods except the constructor will be synchronized. To make these methods synchronized have two effects. First, when one thread is executing a synchronized method for object, all other threads that invoke synchronized methods for the same object are blocked until the first thread is done with the object. Second, when a synchronized method exists, it automatically establishes a happened before relationship with any subsequent invocation of a synchronized method for the same object. This guarantees that changes to the state of the object are visible to all threads. The constructor cannot be synchronized. Be aware that although a race condition is extremely rare since each user has his or her own session, it is still possible, so synchronization is worthwhile. Our first task: examine shoppingcart.java and shoppingcartitem.java files. This is a foreboding tutorial snapshot 5. Let us expand the source package. Then you will see there is a cart sub-package has been added. And in this cart package, there are two .java files. One is shoppingcart.java, another shoppingcartitem.java. Let us examine shoppingcartitem.java first. Now, a shopping cart item has two attributes. One is product, one is quantity. And you notice the shopping cart item, his constructor, there is no default constructor, and has a constructor with one argument product. This makes sense because only if the user pick up one product, put in the shopping cart, then this shopping cart item will be created. So you should not provide a constructor that create a shopping cart item without a product argument. Also, there are two get method for the get quantity and set quantity. For the product, there is no set method, and you have get product method. That makes sense because you cannot set a product after the shopping cart item has been created, because you created a shopping cart item based on a given product, and then the product is fixed belong to this shopping cart item. Also, you will have increment quantity method, decrement quantity method. Those two methods are used when the user try to update the shopping cart. Then you have a method called getTotal. This getTotal is straightforward implementation. You will use get the quantity, multiply the corresponding product his price. But notice this product.getPrice will return you a big decimal. Then you need to convert this big decimal to a double value first. Now, if we double check this, you see the product class, his getPrice method will return you a big decimal. That's why we need to convert this big decimal to a double value first. Now let's examine shopping cart.java class. We will explain the method one by one. First, we notice that there are three attributes in this class. One is a list of shopping cart items. Another is number of total items in the shopping cart. Then another one is the total cost for this shopping cart. The constructor is not synchronized. Actually, the constructor is the only method that is not synchronized in this class. And the constructor takes no argument. That makes sense because the constructor we only need the constructor have no argument because when we create a shopping cart, it is an empty shopping cart. So we just initialize the list is an empty array list of shopping cart items, and set up the number of items to be 0, set up the total cost to be 0. Then the add item method only take one input, which is a product, because we want to add a product to this shopping cart. Now, there are two cases. First, if the product is not exist in the shopping cart yet, then you will create a new shopping cart item with this product, then add this shopping cart item to the item list. Otherwise, when you go through the shopping cart item list and find that there is one item his product match this product you want to add in that case, you just simply increase that existing shopping cart item his quantity by 1. Next method is update method. This update method is used when the user wants to update item in the shopping cart. So this method only can be called when this product really belongs to the shopping cart. So in that case, what do we do? Here the logic is this. Still go through the shopping cart item list. Then after you find this product corresponding item, then you will check what is the quantity you want to update to. Now notice if this quantity you want to update to is not greater than or equal to 0, then your whole code just ignore it, will not do anything. But if it is greater than or equal to 0, then you will set the corresponding shopping cart item his quantity to this new quantity if this quantity is greater than 0. Now if this quantity is equal to 0, which means you really want to remove that shopping cart item whose product is this given product. You want to remove that shopping cart item from the list. So in this case, you break the loop, come here, then you just simply remove that item from the shopping cart item list.
Then we have method get items, get a number of items, and get a subtotal. Let's say this method. Now, pay attention to this method. This method will get the subtotal, which is all the products in your shopping cart, the price add up. Okay, so the logic is very simple. We go through the all shopping cart item in the shopping cart list. Then for each item, then we add up this shopping cart item, his quantity multiply his product price. So then you add up all those amount together. That will give you the total price or cost for this shopping cart before the surcharge. Now, this get subtotal, this method has no argument. This get method will be used in this, let's see, in this checkout page, for example. In the checkout page, you look at this cart is a shopping cart object passed in during this session. So we use EL notation. So cart.subtotal equivalent Java code cart.get subtotal. So you must have a get subtotal method here. This get subtotal method, you cannot have any argument because you don't need any argument. Okay, then how can I get the total after the surcharge? In order to get the total after the surcharge, I need to first call the calculate total method first to make this total be updated. Then I will call get total method. To call get total method in the JSP page is simply just like what we did here, cart.total. This EL expression means cart.getTotal. Okay? Now, if you pay attention, you see he declared this private attributes, number of items, and the total. He did not really update these two private attributes every time he add a product, add an item to the shopping cart, or he update the product quantity. He did not update these two private attributes in these two methods. Okay, that's why in his get number of items, what he did, he started from number of items equals 0, then goes through the shopping cart item list. For each shopping cart item, he get his quantity, add this number of quantity number to this number of items. So then he return this number of items will hold the total number of items in the shopping cart. Then he return this number of items. So he did not update this number of items every time he updated the shopping cart quantity or he add new items to the shopping cart. He just do it in this get number of items method. Okay. The same thing for this subtotal. He did the same thing. Then the get total method will call the calculator total first by giving surcharge. This calculator total method will be done in this controller class. Let us control servlet. Let us say where he need to do this when in the checkout here. Okay, he call calculator total with the surcharge first. Then where is this surcharge be defined? Surcharge is defined here. Get the initial parameter deliver surcharge. Where this deliver surcharge is defined, which will be in your here. It's a context parameter. Of course, this context parameter we already know you can directly use it. For example, in here, you can use initial parameter dot deliver surcharge to get that context parameter. Okay. So another thing you need to notice, even subtotal is not declared as a private attribute. However, get subtotal, as long as you give a method called get subtotal, then in this GSP file, he still can use cart.subtotal to access a shopping cart, his subtotal attributes, as if it has a subtotal attributes, even it's not being declared in the shopping cart class. But as long as you provided a get subtotal get method, okay? Because in this EL expression, this equivalent cart.get subtotal. Our next task is to handle session data. Applications can manage user sessions with HttpSession Object. First, the application binds user-specific data to the HttpSession Object. Then, the application accesses this data at a later stage. Both bind and access actions can be done from Java classes as well as from session-scoped variable in EL expressions. To address how to handle session data, we discussed the following two subjects. First, working with a HTTP session object. Second, working with scoped variables in a web application. To work with HTTP session object, we should be able to obtain the session object first. We can use the code HTTP session equal request.getSession. How about if the session not exist yet? If the session not exist, the above code will create and return a new session. To work with HTTP session object, we should first be able to obtain the session object. In order to do so, we can use the following code: HTTP session equal request.getSession. If the session not exist yet, the above code will return create and return a new session. In order to use this session object as a vehicle to pass the data between requests, we can use the following code. For example, shopping cart equal new shopping cart, then session.setAttribute cart. Now, after we pass this shopping cart object as a HTTP session object to the session as a session's attribute, then we can retrieve this cart from the session net by using the following code. Cart equals shopping cart session.getAttribute cart. Now, notice this shopping cart session.getAttribute cart will return your object. So you need to cast down this object to a shopping cart object. In GSP page, you can access the object bound to the session by using EL expression. If the cart is a shopping cart object bounded to the session, the following code works perfectly. Your shopping cart contains cart.number of items. Now notice here is an EL notation. This equivalent Java code cart.getNumber of items. Of course, it will return you number of items in this shopping cart. Now this is another code, piece of code. If you look at this code will display all the items in the shopping cart. First, let us say for each, this outside for each item, we give them a name called cart item in this shopping cart dot items. Shopping cart dot items is return equivalent cart.getItems will return your list of shopping cart items in this shopping cart. So you step through this list. When you step through this list, for each iteration you refer the element in the list as a cart item. So this cart item, of course, is shopping cart item, has attribute product. So you use cart item dot product equivalent cart item dot get product. So this product, let's call it a product. So in this case, you will display the table rows one by one. Each iteration, you display one row of the table. For each row, depend on the row's index is even or odd, you will let his style will be light blue or white. So in this case, you will display your shopping cart table as the rows will take a turn to be light blue and white background. So first column in the table, you will display the image of this product. We already covered this before. Initial param product image path, then product name.png, right? We already covered this before. Then in the second column, you will display the product's name. So the product.getName equivalent product.name equivalent product.getName. Then the third column, you will display this total value, okay? Total value of this item. What I mean, because for example, it's a meat, $2 per pound. Your quantity is 2 pounds, so the total cost is $4. So on. So you can say this card as a HttpSession object can be used later. Next subtask is work with scoped variable in web application. This table summarizes the variable's scope in a web application. If the scope is application, that means this global memory for a web application. This can be accessed through as long as the application running. Okay, the servlet class is javax.servlet.servlet context. Then for the session, the data specified to a user session, this will the servlet class is javax.servlet.http session. This is the session scope. The previous one is application scope. Then you have request scope. The scope is request, then data specified to an individual server request. Then it's contained in javax.servlet.http servlet request class, and this is request scope. Then page. Then this is page scope, data that only valid in the context of a single page, which is JSP pages only. This is page scope. Let us see several examples. For example, the categories is an application scoped variable. How do I know? Because if you recall, we have say get servlet context dot set attributes category facade dot find all. This line of code will be in your control servlet class. We will examine it later, but based on this code, you know it's a get servlet context dot set attributes. So this is an application scoped variable. Now selected category and category products are placed in the application's session scope. Now, how do you know it's a session scope? Because you will see the code session.set attribute, selected category, or the session.set attribute, category products. Those two previously set as request scope variables. Okay. Now, when to use an EL to access the object, low scope information is needed. For example, we use this notation, category product. We know the category product is a session scope variable, so you don't have to say session.category products. You just say category products. Our next task is to examine session data with the Java debugger. In this task, we will explore how the application behaves during running time. We will use the IDE debugger to step through code and examine how the HTTP session is created and how other objects can be placed in the session scope to be retrieved at a later point. We open this Netbeans snapshot 5 and we will notice, compare from the previous unit, the project snapshot has the following update. First, the foot and header JSPF has been updated. The card.jsp, category.jsp, checkout.jsp, these three JSP pages have been updated. And a forbidden.css file has been updated. More styles are added. Then we have a new package card under the source packages folder. And we have shopping cart.java, shopping cart item.java in this package, and the travel controller servlet.java has been updated. Let's run the project. We first click on any category. Then we go to the category page. On the category page, I can click on Add to Cart. Then the View Cart, proceed to check out. Those two links are available, and the cart situation has been updated. Now we have one item. If I click on Add to Cart for another item, then the cart update to two items. Now I can click on View Cart, will bring me to the cart page. From this page, it lists all the items in your cart. And as we mentioned before, the items table is one row is light blue background, another row is white background. From this view cart page, we can clear the cart, then everything gone, and we'll have a link to bring you back to continue shopping. And if you add an item to the cart again, then your cart keep updated. And in this cart page, you can see, in this category page, you can view cart and proceed to checkout. Of course, proceed to checkout, this link only show up if your cart is not empty. Now, if I click on view cart, then bring me to cart page. And here you can see all the items in your cart, just like we mentioned. Now from here you can update your cart. If you put a 3, now notice before you have 2 items, after you put a 3, you click on update, then it will become 4 items. Okay, you can click on to proceed to checkout. In this checkout page, you notice the subtotal is listed, delivery surcharge listed, and the total cost, which is subtotal plus delivery surcharge, is displayed. Then from here, you can click on Submit Purchase button, bring you to confirmation page. Of course, this business logic has not been implemented yet, but the navigation is already here. If I click on here, it will bring me to confirmation page. Next, let's examine controller servlet.java file, see what's going on. Press Ctrl-Shift-O. We'll go to the file dialog will show up. If I tap on Control, now you'll see Control Servlet. I choose it, click OK, then Control Servlet.java will be open for edit. Let us go to line 150. I click on this line number, then it will put a breakpoint here. Why I want to do that? You notice this is the method do post. Now the do post method will be called when the user try to click on add to cart. If we go back to this category JSP, notice the action add to cart in this form. When this form is submitted, the method is post. When the method is post, controller servlet will handle it by using do post method. Let's rerun the project. I click on any category, then click on add to cart. Now you see the navigation cannot finish because you have set up a breakpoint here. Let us go back here. The execution will stop at this line of code. If you push your mouse here, then he will say session. Session is not allowing variable in current context because this line of code has not been executed. Remember, request.getSession will return you a session to you. If the session not exists yet, we'll create a new session for you. But we know the session has already existed. So let us step over to the next. Then this execution finished. Now, if you put your mouse here, he will say this session is already there. He tell you what session it is. Then next line of code is session.getAttribute card. This one will return you the session's attribute named cart, and this will return you an object. Then you need to cast down this object to a shopping cart. Now, this object may be allowed because the cart might not exist in the session yet. So that's why the next statement, if user pass equals add to cart. Now let us try to do, we actually already did add to cart. That's exactly the line of code we need to execute because we already press add to cart button. So the user pass is add to cart. Then what we will do, the next line of code to execute is this line. Then next line. If cart is null, that's exactly our case. Cart is null, right? Because if you put your mouse here, cart equal null, okay? Because the cart is not in the session yet. So if cart is null, this condition is true. So if you step over, the next line of code is, hey, first create a new shopping cart, then add this shopping cart object, place it into the session by using the code session.setAttribute cart. This line of code will bind the newly created cart object to the session. If you press mouse here, you see now the cart is not null anymore. You already just created a new shopping cart. Then you bind this new shopping cart to the session. How to check if this is true? If you go to Window, go to Debugger, go to Variables, then you will open this Variables window. If you look at the session, then you look at this session's attributes. See what's in the session. Now you see you have three things in the session. Let us check. One is selected category. You see this selected category, the key, and look at his value. This category value, his category ID is 2, and the name is meat. Yeah, we just click on the category is meat, right? If you go back to here, you look, this category, his ID is 2 because we just clicked our selected category is meat. His ID is 2. Okay, so then we also check this category products is already there because this category products, if you expand it, the string is category product size is 4 because you have 4 category product inside. Because this meat, you have 4 product, right? You have all those. Okay. Now let us execute this line of code. We can simply just push F8 for the Mac computer. So it will execute this line, go to next line of code. So after this line of code executed, you can check out the variable window again. If you look at this variable, now you see there is a new attribute added to the session. This new attribute, his name is cart. Then his value is a shopping cart. Okay, we just did it. After this line of code, session.setAttribute cart is executed. We place the cart, newly created cart object. You see, this cart object has been created. We place this cart object into the session. Now, in order to finish add to cart action, we need to continue implement the following thing. First, we need to get this product ID and execute this line of code. Then we need to place this product into the shopping cart. First, we need to find this product first. We use product vector find. You need to pass this product ID, which is a string, as an integer, then use this integer as a key in the database, find the corresponding product. Then we will add this product to the shopping cart. Let us, before we step through this cart.add method, let us say the variable window. In this variable window, you can say you already create a cart, you already get a product ID, you already have a product. You found the product from the database. Now, let us observe what happened in this session. According to your tutorial, you right-click on this session, you create a fixed watch. So your session is on the top here. So you expand, you can always watch what's going on in the session. You can open these attributes, right? Then you will see you already have a cart here, shopping cart created, okay? And this shopping cart value currently, since nothing added inside yet, so the size is 0, which is no item in the shopping cart item in the list items. Then the number of items, of course, is 0. Then the total is also 0. Now, let us continue execute. Since we're here, so let's click on this button, step into this method. When we step into this method add item to the shopping cart. If you give him a product, he first need to decide if this product is a new item or not. Since this is the first time we press add to item button, so this product is a new item. So in this for loop, step through all the items in the items list. Since your item list is empty, so this for loop will not be executed. We'll directly go to the new item if new item is true. So let us try this. Function F8, you will see immediately go to this if statement. So after go to this if statement, then it will say, of course, this condition is true. So we'll add this, use this product, create a new shopping cart item first. So go here. Now, if you want to look at your variable, you can Control-Shift-1, look at the variable window. And if you look at this session, let us say if this shopping cart item is created. So in this, this attributes, yeah, we only have cart, selected product. So this shopping cart item not priced in your session, right? Because we don't have it pressed in the session yet. So let's continue execute. So we F8. This line of code executed. A new shopping cart item is created based on given product. Okay, let us examine the variable window. You will say there is a new shopping cart item called shopping cart item is created. You can examine this shopping cart item. You can say his product is the Parma ham, right? And the price that's showing. The price is 3.49. Okay. If you check our website, the price is 3.49. And then we reach this line of code. After we reach this line of code will add this shopping cart item to the items list. So we continue execute, press F8. Once we reach this line of code, the new product, this product is selected product. You press add to cart. This product is added to the shopping cart. Now, if we examine our variables, you will see this session attribute. You look at the cart and look at his value. Then you will see there is a item. Now you already have one item in your shopping cart. Okay. Pay attention. This number of items still 0 and the total still 0. The reason is, if you recall, we say the tutorial implement the shopping cart functionality. He doesn't update this number of items or this total value as when he add this new product to the shopping cart, he will not update this. That's how he implement. He only retrieve these two private attributes when he call get number of items or get total. Use this to get method. In that to get method, he will do the calculation to get those two private attributes. Okay. And in order to see what's going on, we need to do something else. First, let us find the header file. You can directly click here. If yours is not expanded, for example, is something like this. The faster way to find the head file you want to go, you can choose press Ctrl Shift O, open the go to the file window, then you type in header. Actually, you only need to type HEA, then it probably show you the file started with HEA, then which is header.jspf. Then you click on OK. When you click on OK, now I want you look at this line. This line is he want to display how many items in the cart. This will be displayed on the header of the category page. So let me put a breakpoint here. Okay. After you put a breakpoint here, then we also create a fixed watch, which is we already created a fixed watch. So then continue to execute the code. It will continue until reach the next breakpoint. So it will reach here. Now, if you look at the here, you have another load called implicit objects. Let's expand this implicit objects. Then you click on the page context. Then you go to the session. Then you go to the session. Then you look at the attribute. You will say, now you have a card here. If you expand the card, then you expand the value. Now the number of items value still 0. The reason is I did not execute this line of code yet. This line of code we said is use EL expression. This EL expression equivalency cart dot get number of items. As we mentioned before, this shopping cart class doesn't update number of items, doesn't update the total when user add a new product to the shopping cart. They only do the calculation when get number of items method is called to update to return the updated number of items. So let's continue to execute. We step into the next line, step over. Now this executed. Now if you look at your variable window, now you say, I believe you will say number of implicit session attributes card. Okay, we need to go here again, go to shopping cart again. Now you say the number of item equal 1 because this line of code executed and the method dot cart dot get number of item method is executed. That's why after the number of item become 1. Okay. We can spend a little bit more time go there. Look, if you click Ctrl Shift O, I want to open shopping cart Java. You look at there. You look at the get number of items. You see number of items. First that's 0, then you step through the shopping cart item list. Each time you get one item, get his quantity, you add all those quantity together. That's your number of items. Okay. So now let us continue to finish this. When we finish this, if you go to the website, then you will see this add to cart action completed finish, and you have one item in your shopping cart. And if you view your cart, now we still have a breakpoint, right? So I should clear the breakpoints. Go here. I want to clear all those breakpoints. Okay. For example, I just say delete, disable. I can delete these breakpoints. I can delete these breakpoints if I want. Right click it, then delete all these breakpoints. You can leave it there. The next time you want to use, you enable it. Let us delete this first. If we need, we add again. And I can finish this debugging, then everything finished. Now, if you go back here, now you say you have one item in your shopping cart and the subtotal is showing. So we just finished our task, examine session data with the Java debugger. We explored how the application behaves during running time. We used the IDE's debugger to step through the code. We found out how the HTTP session was created. We found out how other objects could be placed in the session scope to be retrieved at a later point. Our next task is to examine session tracking options. There are three ways to track sessions between client and server. First, using cookies. Second, use URL rewriting. Third, use hiding form fields. For example, the add to cart action in category page and the update action in cart page. Let us switch to these two pages, have a quick look. If you press Control Tab key, we can go to Netbeans IDE. I first want to use Control Shift O, go to the file category. So if you look at the category page, we're already in category. Okay, you look at this form. In this form, add to cart, there is a hiding type input, which his name is product ID and his value is product.id. You use this hiding input can attach this product ID as an attribute named product ID in this request. That's how you pass it. Now, let us look at the cart page. You use Control Shift O, then I type cart.jsp. Then if you look at this, I want to look at the update button, which is when people decide to choose update cart. This action. If you look at this action, there is also a hiding input with value is product.id and his name is product ID. Again, he uses this hiding field in this form to attach this product ID as an attribute in this request. That's how he passes the information. Okay. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint. So this is the way to track this information. The third one is hiding form fields. We just say two examples. However, the Servlet API provides a high-level mechanism for managing sessions for our convenience. It first will create and passes a cookie between the client and the server with each request response cycle. So use the cookie. If the client browser doesn't accept cookies, then the Servlet engine automatically revert to URL writing. Then he will use URL writing. So in this task, we'll do the following two subtasks. First, we will examine client-server communication with the HTTP monitor. By default, the Servlet engine uses cookie to maintain identify sessions between requests. A random number is generated for each session object. It is passed as a session ID cookie. We will use this HTTP monitor to see all this happens. Then the next subtask, we will maintain the session with URL writing. This is transparent to client, but is not so to develop. We will see how can we explicitly to do this. First subtask, examine client-server communication with the HTTP monitor. Click on two servers. Make sure the Glassfish server is chosen. Then you enable this HTTP monitor by checking this box. Then you close it. Now let's run the project. Click on the debugging. Then this project is running. Now if you go back to your Netbeans IDE, you will see HTTP server monitor is showing up this window. Now you want to find your most recent. Today is March 29. I run this in 9:33. Yeah, pay attention. You might have lots of records. You need to choose the most recent one. After you look at this one, if you look at here, your request is a forward bin. The method is get. There is no query string, But if you look at this session, you already have a session ID. Okay, this session ID is created by today and at 9:33 a.m. Now, you might wonder how a session object was created from a request for the site welcome page. After all, the control servlet doesn't handle the initial request for the forward bin, and nowhere does this request encounter get session, or does it? So recall that JSP pages are compiled into servlet upon deployment. Once you have deployed your project to the server, you can actually use the IDE to view the JSP pages compiled servlet on your server. In the project window, let us right-click index.jsp. Then you choose the option View Servlet. Then there is a file called index-jsp.java will open. Let us try to find where is the get session. You Command F. You look at it, he asks you to find. Let us find the get session. Now you will see here is a session context page dot get session. Here, this is where he get the first session. Okay, get session method is in fact called here. The reason this occurs is because JSP pages include page context data session implicit object by default. If you want to deactivate this behavior, you could add the following code. In your tutorial, say the code is in this percentage tag add page session equal false. In that case, you can remove this default setting. But we don't want to do so. We just understand by default, when you first compile, deploy this project, the index.jsp will compile to the servlet. And by default, there is a page context has implicit object for the session. And he will call get session method, and a session is created. You have a session ID is here. Okay. Now, go to the browser. Before do that, let us make sure breaking point or disabled. Let me disable all these breakpoints because I really want to be able to continue execute the code. Go here. Let us choose any category. Then I choose add to cart. Okay. After we add to cart, now let's go back. Say what happened. I want to look at here. Look at this session monitor. Okay. Now, let us see the request. See if there are any more requests. Maybe we should see the cookies. Okay, yeah. Look, we do have a cookie. This name is JSession ID, and this cookie is the value is this. We do have a cookie, right? Okay, and let us look. See if we under the request. Okay, let us say under the request, we still only have get because we did not. Did I add anything to the cart yet? Yes, I did add something to the cart. So let us see our most recent Why I don't have a post? I do have a cookie. Do I have a post method? I don't. That's strange. Let me do one more time. I should have a post method here. If I add, then I go to my session. Oh, I should go to the session. Right, I do have a session. Okay, created. Then cookie requests. I should have one request is add a card, right? So where it is? Oh, post here. Sorry. He go with the alphabetical order. We didn't see it. So this is a post. Now you see the first request, the second request is late. One is happened at 9:37. One is happened at 9:39. Okay, so 9:37. The request is post, right? If you see the request, the parameter product ID is 6, submit, add to the cart. They have all this. And you can look at the cookie. Okay. And this cookie, his name is JSession ID. And you can compare these two will have the same cookie because they have the same session. Okay. Okay. If you select the session table, then he said this session existed before this request. If you look at the earliest request, also say the session existed before this request because this session ID is the same session ID as those two requests have the same session ID and is the same thing as this get request, which is from beginning. Okay, so that means the user keep in this session. Okay. Now, as we said, when we first launch to the welcome page, we already created a session with this session ID. Then we perform add to the card action is in the same session with the same session ID, and it tell you the session existed before this request. You add another item to the card, still the same session ID. Okay, so that session is kept. Our next task is to maintain sessions with URL writing. As we mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation, the servlet engine detects whether cookies are supported for the client browser, and if not, it switches to URL rewriting as a means of maintaining sessions. This all happens transparent to the client, but for you as a developer, the process isn't entirely transparent. You need to ensure that the application is capable to rewriting URLs whenever cookies are disabled. You do this by calling the response encoded URL method on all URLs returned by the servlet in your application. Doing so enables the session ID to be appended to the URL in the event that the use of cookies is not an option. Otherwise, it returns the URL unchanged. So how to do this? So let us first temporarily disable the cookie option from your web browser. I use Firefox. For Firefox, I will go to, you can go to the menu, you go to Preference, then you go to the Privacy, and in the history, you say Firefox will use custom setting for history. Let me see, I want to uncheck accept a cookie from the site. Okay, let us do this. Then I close it. Then let us go back here. Run the forward bin project in the debug model. Okay, now if I click by choose on some category, for example, I choose dairy, it seems like still okay. If I choose add to cart, oh, now it's not okay now. Now you say, when I choose to add to cart, he couldn't remember what is selected product, okay, and what is the selected category. So because the cookie got there is no session, no cookie can keep the session to pass the session. So now we need explicitly rewriting the URL. How to do that? Let us open cart category.jsp. You can choose Ctrl+Shift+O. Go to the file category.jsp. Click on OK. Yeah, we're already here. Then look at from the action add to cart method is post. I really want the action rewrite by put it inside the C URL tag. So I will type this C URL value equal add to cart. I put in the single quote, then slash, then this. Okay, now double check. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, then we save it. Remember, in this IDE, when you save it, it's automatically deployed. Okay, then go back to this page. Then I go back to, probably I need to rerun my project. Let's go back and rerun my project. Finish this debugging session. Then rerun it, redebug it. Then I click on running dairy. Then I add to the car. Okay, now everything is fine. Since everything is fine, let us view what happened. Let us view the source of this web page. Okay, to view this source, I can use Command U, then show this source. When you see this source, let us go back to add to cart action. Then see what happened. Add to cart, yeah, here. If I enlarge it, you can see in this form, add to cart, action equal add to cart. Then here append JSession ID add to it. This is URL rewriting. Okay. Now, before we proceeding, let us enable cookies on our browser. So let me close here. Then I will go to here, recheck this box, accept the cookies from the site. Okay. Now, in your tutorial, he mentioned that not every time you try to do this is obvious. He gave you an example. For example, the clear cart widget used in the cart.jsp currently set the clear parameter to true when the link is checked. Let us say the clear cart in the cart.jsp. So you can Control Shift O, type cart.jsp, then click OK. Let us say the clear cart widget. See where it is. Oh, I can use Command F, find the clear cart. Yeah, here clear cart current set is true. Okay, then you say clear cart like this. But in your tutorial, he said this C URL tag can be applied to the URL in the following manner. If you want a clear cut, he will retype as the following. We probably directly open the affordable bin project snapshot 6, which is a finished version for you to compare. Okay, let's open this project. So I want in this project, I type Control Shift O. You finish, let's say cart.jsp. Oh, I have two of them, right? Cart.jsp. I have to look at the second one, I believe. That is the one for, oh, this is snapshot. This one is snapshot 6. He show you here, snapshot 6. I want a snapshot 6 one. So I click on cart. Now we find the clear cart. Okay. Now you see how he implemented this. You compare those two. This one he uses this way. He first uses C.colon URL tag to define this URL. Okay. Then he put the link is this URL's value. So you compare with the one, another one. You see the difference. Our last task is to handle session timeouts. There are two steps to do this. First, we need to set session time interval. You should consider the maximum time interval which your server maintains session for. You can not make it too long, because if you make it too long, it will waste your server resource. Because some people stay there, not get out, but not do anything. So you don't want to make it too long. Also, you don't want to make it too short either. Imagine the following scenario: somebody shopping on your website, after hard work, they pick up items in the shopping cart, then he decided to check out, then he did go to get his wallet for the credit card. During this time, his session expired, then everything lost. He did repeat this shopping process. What do you think? I believe the customer will just give up and find someplace else to shop. So your first step, need to set the session time interval. The session time cannot be, this interval cannot be too long, cannot be too short. Then second step, you need to programmatically handle session timeout. So if your application rely on the session, you need to take measure to ensure that it can gratefully handle situation in which the request is received for a session that has timed out or cannot be identified. In this case, you should create a sample filter that intercepts the request heading to the control servlet. The filter checks if a session exists. If not, it forwards the request to the site's welcome page. Let us do the first step, setting session time interval. In fact, we have set up the session time interval, the default one. If you use Ctrl-Shift-O and try to open Weibo XML, if you look at here, you click OK. Then you open here, you will say session configure, session timeout is 30. That means the timeout is 30 minutes. Let us reset this one to be, you can change this to 10 minutes. You can, for example, you can change this to 1 minute. That's fine. Or you can change it by using graphic user interface. For example, you click on this general. Then you say the session timeout 10 minutes. If I want to change to 1 minute, then you look at the source. It has been changed to 1 minute. Okay, it's changed to 1 minute here. Okay, if we change it to 1 minute, then let us run the program to test it, the running. First, I'll end the debug session, then rerun it. Let me double check if I have breakpoints. I don't want to have any breakpoint. Okay, now suppose this. Click on, then let me say add to cart. Okay, then I go to view cart. Okay, then I wait for 1 full minute. Well, I think it was to wait. You just relax for 1 minute. Okay, after wait for 1 minute, I want to update this item. We can write, for example, update. I want to buy 5 bottles of milk. Okay, put 5 here. Then I need to press update. If you recall, when you press update, the update card action will take, and that action relay on the session to pass the data. Okay, so let us wait. I think probably we wait enough. 1 minute. It's not that long, so we click update. Yeah, update. You say. Then he says there is an exception, Java null point exception. Okay, if you go back to here, let us close the server monitor. Then I want to find the output window. You can use Command 4, I believe. Command 4 will give you output window. Then you click on the Glassfish server. Then you will say, he said this null point exception. Then he tell you where is the null pointer come from. You click on this link, he will bring you to this line of code, which is when you try to update a card is your action. Then there is a card.update product quantity. Now this product and quantity, this card are stored in your session, if you recall. The card is stored in the session. Where is the code? Let us say here. Here, when you first add to the cart, if cart is null, you create a new shopping cart and bind this shopping cart to the session, or we say place this cart object to the session. Now, if your session expired, this cart not exist anymore. Therefore, we have null point exception. Now, we identify the problem. How do we fix the problem? We fix the problem by add a filter class. So use Command N, new file. I will choose web category, and I want to choose the filter, which is here. Then click on next. I accept this, put this filter class name called session timeout filter. Okay, and I want the package called filter package. Filter package. Then I set all the rest no change. I think we just use session timeout filter. Just accept every default setting. Then just click on next. Then click on finish. Okay, now you notice we have a new more package called filter and have session timeout filter.java open for editor. Okay, now first I want to change at here. Then I say variable filter servlet name. I want the servlet name. Okay. I change it to servlet names equal controller. Now, pay attention, where is the controller name come from? This controller name come from this controller servlet.java. You see, and here you have add web servlet annotation defined the name equal controller. So anything go to this controller servlet will filter by this session timeout filter first. Okay, so there are many built-in code here. According to the tutorial, it was to go through, but I will not go through this. I just want to mention a couple things. Okay. The IDE filter template provides a lot of interesting code, which is worth inspecting in its own right. However, most of it is not needed for our purpose here. Any filter class must implement the filter interface, which defines three methods. So since you implement the filter interface defines three methods: init, destroy, and do filter. So if you want to implement this class, you must implement these three methods. But for our purpose, we really only need to implement the do filter method. So for other methods, we can just delete all of them. Let us delete all of them, but I need to save do filter method. Okay, I need to save this one, do filter method, but I need to, of course, rewrite the code in the way I want it. So I want do filter method. I want to delete all those things. I need to re-implement in my way. And this filter configuration set filter. No, I don't need this. Now you do not delete the destroy. Even you don't need a destroy method, but you need to implement it. You implement it by giving it an empty function body. Now you also need to implement this init method, but we really don't need to implement it. We just implement it by giving him an empty body. Then I delete the rest. Pay attention. Those two we need is because your class implement filter interface, and the filter interface defined destroy, initial, and do filter method. So those three methods you have to implement them. However, we really only need do filter method to handle this timeout thing. So for other two, we just implement them by giving them empty function body. Let's implement this do filter method. HTTP servlet request equal HTTP servlet request request. So the first statement cast down the servlet request, cast down request to the servlet HTTP servlet request. Okay, then HTTP session equal request dot get session false. Then I will say if session doesn't exist, forward user to welcome page. So if session equal null, then I will try request dot get request dispatch index dot gsp dot forward request response. Now I try this. If I catch exception, then I will say exception dot print stack trash. Then return here. If I don't return, wait, let me double check here. I will have a public do filter method. Then I have a if, so our return is supposed to be outside. Oh no, it's okay. So I need to say chain dot do filter, then request response. Yeah, that's the code. Okay, of course we need to fix the input. Fix the input, you can always say add input for this. Yeah, click on, then you click on this add input for the Java servlet http session. Yes, so all the input fixed. Then the next two don't need to do anything. Okay, now we can fix the input. Also can just use Command Shift I to fix the input. Okay, before we continue, let's make sure there's no more existing breakpoints. Yes, our breakpoint window shows we have no more existing breakpoints. If you do see one, you can disable it or just simply delete. To delete, you can right click on the breakpoint, then you choose delete option. Okay, let's run the program. Click on the debug session, run the project. Okay, the project run. We just click on any category. Then we add a couple item to the cart. Then before I choose to view cart, let me set up a new breakpoint. I want to set a breakpoint here. If you look at this code says session equal request dot get session. Recall, if the get session method without argument will return you a session. If no session exists, will create a session and return to you. Now, this get session with one argument, Boolean argument, this method will return you a session, but if session not exist, will return you null. It will not create a new session to return. It simply return null if the session not exist. Okay, we set a breakpoint here. After we set a breakpoint here, we save it to deploy it. Then we try to add this to view cart. If you create a view cart, now you say your code execution go to the breakpoint. It's here. At this time, the session is not known yet because we don't have a session. This line of code is not executed yet. So step over. After you step over, he said your session equal now. That is probably because it takes us too long time to get here. We spend too much time. 1 minute passed since our session only 1 minute, right? So I step over, then he say we'll forward to the index.jsp page. So I step over, return. Now, if you check, it's go back to index.jsp. Okay. Now let us try one more time. This time, need stop here again. So I step over. Now this session, if you look at the session is not allowed. So I can step over. Okay. Step over. Okay. Now that's why I go to category page. Then I try to add to cart. Oh, sorry. When I try to add to cart, he is try to need to handle the session. Okay. I mean breakpoint. So I need a step through. I just simply go through. Okay, finish it. So we add 2 items to cart because I click. Okay. Now I add another item to cart. Then he will handle it. So I just simply go back here to finish it. Okay, until meet next. Now, in this case, I try to view cart. Now it's also wait for handle. Then let me just, you can see the session is not alone yet, but if you step over, then you hello his session, which is not allowed because you did not spend 1 minute yet. So I just finish it. Now this time, I will spend 1 full minute here wait. Let's put a 3 here. I should use a stopwatch to wait. But we can just relax for 1 minute. Now after 1 minute, you load the session expired. So if you click on update, then it will redirect you to index page according to the code, because here is the code. If this session is live, which means expired, then it will go to the index page. Okay. We probably wait a little bit longer to make sure session expired. Probably should be enough, right? Let's wait a little bit longer. Should have a stopwatch. Okay, click on update. Okay, now go back here. Look at here. I hopefully I see log. No, I want to see here. Session not there yet. Okay, so I try to step over. Let's look at the session. Yes, now my session equal log. Okay, because the session expired, not there yet, not there anymore. So if I step through, then he will try to forward to the index.jsp. Then step through, then you go back to index.jsp, and all the information in the shopping cart has gone. Let's give a summary to this unit of tutorial. In this unit, we learned how to use IDE's debugger to examine session data. We learned how to use cookie URL writing and hiding form fields to parse session data. Finally, we learned how to programmatically handle timeout. In this part, we did particular pay attention to the method getSession. The getSession method is an overloaded method. If there is no argument, then that method will return you a newly created session. He will create a session, then return it to you if there is no existing session. However, in this overloaded form, if you give a false as the argument to the getSession method, then it will return you null if there is no session exist yet. So this is the end of Unit 8. I made another presentation on Unit 8 before this one, which gives some coding examples. It is under the name the Netbeans e-commerce tutorial Unit 8 Actual. The next is Unit 9, Integrating Transactional Business Logic. Again, all materials in this presentation come from Netbeans.org website. Thank you for watching. See you next time.